Stocks trade ranged ahead of the outcomes of the trade talks with the United States, which it is having with China. And Indian IT and metals are big gainers, even as realty and financials drag. Nestle India CEO Suresh Narayan says the healthcare space is exploding, or he also sees opportunities in ready-to-eat segment and enough room for the growth in coffee. The game changer, he adds, will be the speed of innovation. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyel calls China's restrictions on rare earth magnets export a wake-up call, and he adds that India is actively building alternative supply chains to reduce dependency on China. Net inflows into equity funds dip sharply to under rupees 19,000 crores in May from over 24,000 in the month of April. Flows into corporate bond funds, however, see a significant pickup. SIP inflows remain strong at nearly 26,700 crore rupees. Donald Trump sends 700 Marines and 2,000 additional National Guards to Los Angeles as the city wrestles with unrest. Meanwhile, California Governor Gavin Newsom aims to file a lawsuit over the use of National Guard at protests. Hello, good afternoon. You've tuned in to Business Lunch, coming live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I'm Vinny Motiwala. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always. A quick look at what the market is doing today. Pretty range-bound in terms of a trading session. Opened up near the day's highest point, then it's come off, but still managing to hold on to gains today. So Nifty continues to gain for the fifth consecutive session. We'll wait and watch out if that continues for the second half of the trading session as well. But as of now, 5 consecutive days of green that we've seen coming in on the screen for the Nifty 50. Nifty Bank, on the flip side, actually has snapped its 4-day gaining streak, and today is trading in the red, down 0.2%, recovered from the lowest point slight bit. But yes, as of now in the red. Will it come back to the green side like we saw in the morning? That's something to watch out for. The Nifty mid and small cap performing almost in tandem with the benchmark indices. Not much of a move, but the small cap seems like it's flip-flopping between the red and the green. Mid cap managing to hold on to green. Small cap is just, we saw that slight bit of a blip that came in terms of the red, and then a recovery coming back. So let's watch out for what's happening on that front. Nifty IT, interestingly, to watch out for in terms of sectors today. That is also the one that is seeing a good up move in today's trading session, up more than 1.5%. So interesting to watch out for that. But that's the roundup that we're seeing coming in for the Indian markets as of now. Steady is what we're seeing coming in range-bound trading session, I beg your pardon, so far for the markets. But moving on to the top US and China news story that we have coming in, as US and China officials will resume the trade talks for the second day in London today. We have CNBC's Sylvia Amaro, who's joining in with us to give us the latest update on that one.
It is getting quite crowded here. More and more journalists arriving as we expect these conversations to start at around 10 a.m. London time. It's worth keeping in mind, as you mentioned there, that the negotiating teams were here yesterday for about 6 hours. And the fact that they are running into a second day, they're having a further day of conversations, could be seen as a positive sign. I had a chance to speak to William Bain from British Chambers of Commerce earlier this morning, and he said that this is indeed a positive sign. Let's take a listen.
It shows that some progress has been made. Clearly, a lot more has to be decided today. But, you know, the importance of this to the global economy is really very hard to underestimate, because you know, we're seeing a reduction of half in the level of critical minerals being exported from China into the United States. Exports overall from China to the US down by 1/3. And in key sectors like automotive, jets for military purposes, these critical minerals are absolutely vital for their continued manufacture and for supply chains. So it's having real effects in the economy now, the world's 2 largest economies. The rest of us are facing consequences from that too. And this deal matters to both US and China, but to the whole world as well.
So at this stage, we understand that the negotiation is focused around chip exports from the United States to China, and on the other hand, the Chinese exports of rare earth minerals to America. But of course, the detail is still very thin. We have to wait for these conversations to start to understand where these negotiations will go. And just a final point to say that yesterday the investment community was a little bit skeptical about what sort of progress these trade conversations could actually provide us with. But today, that narrative seems to be changing.
And a U.S. official confirmed that the trade talks will continue into the second day, and the discussion will be around to resolve mainly the disputes over the transfer of technology and the rare earth exports that we're seeing in terms of restrictions that China is talking about. When asked about the negotiations, President Trump responded, and I quote, "We are doing well with China. China's not easy." Listen into what more he had to say.
We are doing well with China. China's not easy, just like your home country is not easy there. I think we're doing very well. They're over there now. I'm only getting good reports. It's a little early, but they'll be calling in soon. In fact, probably when I get back, I'll have my first call from them. We want to open up China. And if we don't open up China, maybe we won't do anything. But we want to open up China. It'll be a great thing for China, a great thing for the rest of the world.
Let's also listen into the White House National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett discussing the state of U.S.-China trade talks and also the latest update on the trade talks with India.
The purpose of the meeting today is to make sure that they're serious, but to literally get handshakes from Scott and Howard and Jameson, our three lead trade negotiators, and get this thing behind us. So our expectation is that after the handshake, then immediately after the handshake, any export controls from the U.S. will be eased and the rare earths will be released in volume, and then we can go back to negotiating smaller matters. We spent the last week and a half getting the China situation under control, including having calls with President Xi and President Trump, sending our top trade team to London to finalize that deal. And we've got a whole bunch of stuff that's teed up to go next, and India would be top of the list.
And Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyel calls China's restrictions on rare earth magnet exports a wake-up call. He adds that India is actively building alternative supply chains to reduce the dependency on China. Listen in.
There are issues around the stopping of permanent magnets from China to India, which will affect our auto sector particularly, and several white goods and other sectors. Our embassy is in dialogue with them. Commerce Ministry is also working. Some companies have put in their applications, and we hope that good sense will prevail and they will get their approvals for permanent magnets. Having said that, we are working on several other tracks to see the availability from alternate sources, to look at our Indian Indian Rare Earths Limited, providing the necessary materials to be able to speed up the development of our own products. And in a way, it's a wake-up call for all those who have become over-reliant on certain geographies. It's a wake-up call for the whole world that you need trusted partners in your supply chain. And India is now becoming the alternate that the world is looking up to, because with India they have the confidence that they will never have to suffer this kind of problems.
And moving on, my colleague Dia is going to bring us up to speed with what's happening inside the Trump's administration. Dia, take away what's the action there? What are we watching out for today?
We begin with fast developing tensions in Los Angeles that are drawing international and national scrutiny. The Trump administration is sending about 700 active duty Marines to reinforce the National Guard in response to protests in Los Angeles. The U.S. Northern Command said Monday the move marks the continued escalation that California officials have condemned as unwarranted. President Donald Trump further intensified matters, suggesting that California Governor Gavin Newsom should be arrested over his handling of the unrest. In response, global institutions are urging restraint. The United Nations issued a warning Monday cautioning against further militarization of the unrest in Los Angeles. And California is now taking fight to court. State officials have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration over the deployment of the National Guard, arguing the president overstepped federal authority in responding to protests linked to immigration raids. And in other news, President Trump's controversial new travel ban officially went into effect just after midnight Monday. The order bars citizens from a dozen countries from entering the U.S., reviving one of the most divisive policies of his administration. Turning to diplomacy, President Trump expressed concern that Iran is pushing too hard in talks over uranium enrichment, while discussions toward a potential nuclear deal continue. The president noted that another meeting with Iranian negotiators is scheduled for Sunday in Oman. And in Washington, a high-profile feud may be easing. President Trump announced he will retain Starlink internet service at the White House and offered his good wishes to Elon Musk, signaling a potential end to their recent public clash.
Thank you so much for that, Dia. But some more updates coming in from the United States. The United States Health and Human Service Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. fires 17 members of the U.S. Centers for a Disease Control and Prevention panel of vaccine experts, drawing protests from many vaccine scientists. Kennedy, who was a vocal anti-vaccine activist before joining the Trump administration, said that he will replace the panel with his own picks. He also said that the move would raise public confidence. And on that note, we're going to slip into a break. But before we slip into the break, we have some exciting news for you. Unlock a new dimension of business intelligence with CNBC-TV18 Access. Our premium members only experience on CNBCTV.com. From market-moving insights and thought leadership to exclusive access to marquee events, journalists, interactions, studio tours, and high-impact learning sessions. This is a truly elevated experience with members also enjoying curated lifestyle privileges and perks. The power of insights, the privilege of access, exclusivity experience, as well as influence. Yours to claim. Become a member. Log on to CNBCTV18.com. Access plans. Welcome back to Business Lunch on CNBC TV18. Now let's move on and talk about the latest data that has come in from AMFI. The mutual fund industry seems like it's reflecting a bit of a dip that has come in terms of the equity inflows. SIP contribution nonetheless have seen or maintained the 26,000 around that mark what their trade, they have been at in the last few months. Surbi is here to get us more details on this front. Afternoon, Surbi. Interesting data, right? Equity inflows seeing a dip. SIP contribution remains healthy though.
Well, it's a bit of a sobering reality for mutual fund inflows in the month of May. And this is not just May alone. We've seen this pattern build from February of this year. And increasingly, month after month, the net inflows coming into equity funds have dipped. Now that level has come down to a sobering reality of 18,995. So imagine this, from a peak of close to 41,000 crores that we were getting every month in equity funds. Now we're just under 19,000 crores. And this is also the May figure is the lowest inflow figure since April 2024. So this is kind of showing up across categories. Large cap funds, the inflows have halved. I mean, this time we've seen just an inflow of about 1,250 crores. Even mid and small caps, relatively better than what we've seen in the large cap category. But even there, month on month, the dip is between 15% to about 20% in the inflows. For the small cap, the category has got the largest inflow. I mean, if you're looking at the three capitalization categories this month at around 3,214 crores. The good news is that there's been some revival in new fund offerings, NFOs, because of which we have seen the total inflow via the NFO route go back above the 4,000 crore rupee mark. Remember, at the peak, when we were getting 40,000 crores every month, a lot of that money was coming through the NFO route. And that has been petering off as the market got extremely volatile. The silver lining, yes, as you rightly said, it's SIP. So investors are still keeping the faith in systematic investment plans. And that number is rock steady. No problems there. 26,688, so almost knocking at the doorsteps of 26,700 crores. The overall industry AUM continues to inch higher as well. And it has crossed over 72 lakh crores at 72.19 to be precise. In a summary, equity inflows have come down, market volatility has played a part, but investors are keeping the faith on the long-term journey with those SIPs.
Okay, Surbhi, thank you so much for that. So keep an eye out on the mutual fund data that's just coming for the month of May. Let's move on United Spirits. That has been reacting positively today, and this is on the back of reports of its parent company, Diageo PLC, looking to cut down their stake in the IPL franchisee. That is, beg your pardon, Royal Challengers Bangalore. In our special offering, Value Plus, Mangalam is going to tell us about the developments as well as about their listed companies which own IPL franchisee. Mangalam.
Well, so if you look at, reports that came in from Bloomberg early this morning that suggested that maybe Diageo PLC, which is the owner of United Spirits, which in turn is the owner of Royal Challengers Bengaluru, is actually considering options for its stake in Royal Challengers Bengaluru. It could either be part stake sale or it could be full sale. But at the same time, they have appointed, potential advisors and are weighing possibility. For all you know, this may well be nothing and not amount to any sale as well. That's what the report says. But they're seeking a valuation of anywhere around $2 billion. So that's something we'll most definitely have to keep an eye out on. To that report, Diageo refused to comment, and CNBC-TV18 reached out to United Spirits, and they said this is market speculation, so they did not want to comment as well. But what this did is, made me think about what are the listed companies which have stakes in IPL teams. And there are three that really stand out. One, United Spirits, which owns Royal Challengers Bengaluru, 100% stake in that. The second one is Sun TV, which owns about 100% stake in Sunrisers Hyderabad as well. And then we have RPSG Ventures, which is the holding company of the Sanjeev Goenka Group, has about 51% stake in the Lucknow Supergiants team. Now, using $2 billion as a valuation fulcrum for United Spirits, and then $1.5 billion for Sun TV, the Hyderabad team, and about the price at which RPSG bought the Lucknow Supergiants team. If you look at their market cap and compare the IPL team's valuation to the market cap, it turns out that United Spirits, 15% of its market cap is the value of the IPL team. For Sun TV, it's 50%. And for RPSG Ventures, of course, which owns 51% stake, the remainder is held by Sanjeev Goenka in their personal capacity, is about 145%. But you have to take note of the holding company discount out there as well.
Okay, Mangalam, thank you so much for that. But moving on, the central government has written to state governments urging them to use the service of state-run telecom providers, BSNL as well as MTNL. Ashmit is joining in with us to give us details on this front. Ashmit?
Well, an interesting development, we find that the Department of Telecom has written to all the state governments, urging them, requesting them rather, to use BSNL and MTNL services for all their telecom requirements going forward. Now, this is a request, a letter that was issued by the DOT to the state chief secretaries. What we understand is that this letter is quite detailed. It goes back to 2019. It talks about how in 2019, the Union Cabinet had made it mandatory for all central government ministries, departments, agencies to start using BSNL and MTNL. And at the time in 2019 itself, a request had been issued to the state governments to also contemplate use of BSNL and MTNL services for telecom requirements. At the time, what has been cited in the letter is that there were data security needs that had been cited for that union mandate for all central government ministries to be using it. Now, going forward, this letter goes on to say that, look, the central government ministries are already using it, the armed forces are using it, the core banking telecom networks, again, provided by BSNL as well as MTNL, that this is something that needs to be borne in mind, that there is a competitive edge that BSNL has now acquired after 3 revival packages, 2019, 2022, and then subsequently 23, and says, this letter goes on to say that BSNL has now a competitive edge. It is operating in the market, and towards that end, a request is now being issued that all departments, agencies of the state governments should start using BSNL, MTNL networks. This, of course, is a request, is a nudge coming in from the central government. To that end, the central government, the DOT, goes on to say that BSNL will also provide a nodal officer to ensure that there is a one-stop point as far as state government seeking BSNL help is concerned. So that is something, a nudge coming in. First, a request going out in 2019 for state governments to start using BSNL telecom networks. Now that request being renewed, a fresh letter being issued by the centre to the state governments.
Thank you so much for that, Ashmit. But on that note, let's focus to what's happening in the world of commodity. Manisha is joining in with us to tell us what's happening today. What is she keeping an eye on? And I think the focus is on silver today, Manisha.
It is, because, you know, the last 10 days clearly belong to silver. The kind of run-up that we've seen on almost every day It has been 2% of gain in the overnight market. We are trading above $36 an ounce, even with that bit of a profit taking. If you look at the previous week, silver has gained by 8.5%. It's up by nearly 12.5% in last month and up 27% now for the year 2025. Various factors which seem to be supporting the markets. One, silver is playing catch up with gold, because when you look at the gold and silver ratio, the buying in silver perhaps was just about coming. The second thing really is about the weakness in US dollar index, which is a very added support for many of these dollar denominated commodities. And then it also has been about strong investor demand that we have seen in Asia and in Europe as well. The markets also are looking at supply tightness. 2025 is going to be a fifth straight year that you are looking at a deficit in the global markets when it comes to silver. Add to that a very strong record industrial demand as well for a fourth straight year anticipated in 2025. That in turn has been supportive as well. But the markets do believe that with the kind of run-up that we've seen in case of silver, you could be looking at higher highs. Remember, all-time high for silver has been at around $49 an ounce. We are trading at 36 at this point in time. So the street believes that there's way more higher up to go from these current levels.
Okay, Manisha, thank you so much for that. Surely we will be keeping an eye out on where silver is headed. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. But as we slip into the break, a quick programming update as we slip into the break that we are launching our commodity, crypto and currency focused show, The Big C, on CNBC-TV18 Prime tomorrow at 1 p.m. We will be joined by Michael Terenzio of the Silver Institute and Arun Misra of Hindustan Zinc to discuss the outlook on silver prices. Welcome back to Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Moving on, a day after a Singapore-flagged ship caught fire off Kerala's coast, 18 crew members rescued were safely brought to the Bangalore port by the Indian naval ship INS Surat. Among the rescued, 2 are in critical condition, while 4 sustained minor injuries. At least 12 others suffered varying levels of trauma. Meanwhile, at the launch of EXIMO-4 mission carrying Indian astronaut Subhanshu Shukla and 3 others of the International Space Station has been postponed to 11th June due to weather conditions. Shukla's travel to space will mark India's return to human spaceflight 41 years after Rakesh Sharma was on board of Soyuz spacecraft. Some updates are for our viewers as we wrap up this edition of Business Lunch. Enhance your technical analysis with ready-made chart patterns, a feature of a Money Control Super Pro. Monitor chart patterns as they develop live in the market and be the first to seize these opportunities. Get your investment superpower today. Subscribe now.